Hi, Kylie. How was your week?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's been half term over here, which means the most of the families on the island go away on holiday, and I think there was only a few remaining, so we ended up staying here for the last couple of weeks.
It's really quiet, isn't it, this week?
It is so quiet. I really enjoyed it. It was just kind of like nice and slow. We did lots of things with the kids, and yeah, it was lovely. What about you?
I was one of the ones that went away, which was really lovely. It was really nice to have a bit of mainland time and catch up with family and friends, and just have a bit of time with the family off the rock, as we like to say. But it was lovely. Yeah, I really had a really nice time. Came back on the last boat, which was rough.
I've heard all about it from everyone.
Yeah, when the staff say they're struggling, then you know it's not good. But we survived. We all got there in the end.
I know when we've been away for half term, you kind of leave, and then when you come back, it's like suddenly everything's either things are shutting that they are for the winter, or everyone's on winter hours, or just suddenly feels like winter when you come back.
Definitely. And on that last boat, that really signals the end. The boat leaves and that's it. It's like the drawbridge is raised on the island then for the winter. Because I don't know about you, but we don't ever leave unless it's on the boat. Especially not as a family. I think it's just, it's boat or nothing. So we're here now until March.
Next year.
And we see the boat again. And I'm really fond of the boat. I was talking about it, like it was an ordeal, but I really love the boat. I love seeing her arriving every day, and I do love travelling on her. You do get the odd tricky journey.
Yeah.
But I do love the Salonian. She's a beautiful boat. And
I really love like the humming that you hear, and you can almost hear it, like we hear it down at the farm, when she goes past Porthelic, you can just hear it, or you can almost feel it in your ears. It's just, it's like comforting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just like hearing her going back and forth, or hearing the horns beep, or it's just so nice. Be sad that she goes.
Yeah, I am sad that she's leaving.
Yeah. Anyway, talking about the boat, this week we interviewed Jessie, and she actually talked about the boat.
When she first arrived
on the
boat, which was an experience.
Yeah,
apparently.
Exactly. But how did you enjoy the interview?
I loved it. I really enjoyed speaking with Jessie. I don't actually know her that well. Obviously, I've seen her down at the farm, but don't know much about her background or how she ended up here. So it was lovely to hear, her story and why she came here. How about you?
Yeah, it was really nice for me because obviously we've lived with Jessie on and off for the last, 7 years now. But it was just so nice to hear her like really talk in a loving way about the islands. And, we've talked to people who've lived here their whole lives, and Jessie, who's obviously, just randomly come here. And it's just so nice to hear about how Scilly just gets you sometimes. Doesn't matter who you are. It just kind of like grabs you a bit. And so I just loved hearing her perspective of it.
Yeah, we do learn something from every story that we hear, don't we?
Yeah, everyone. Anyway, I hope everyone else enjoys it as much as we did.
Scilly Stories, getting to know the people of Scilly. Okay, we're here this evening. It is this evening.
Yeah, it's quite late. I'm amazed we're all still up, actually.
We might yawn at some point. But we're here with Jessie. What's your surname, Jessie?
Guilliatt.
Yeah. Who has been working at the Salakee Farm for, on and off for...
Since 2018. Yeah. I arrived on the last boat of the season in 2018.
That was going to be our first question, actually. Yeah. How did you arrive? How did you
What brought you?
Yeah, what brought you to Scilly?
So I was living in London at the time and hating it. And so I wanted to get as far away from London as possible before the winter. And so I was just doing a sort of search of farms workaway experiences, which is kind of like a work for your board and your food setup. And I was just looking through the list, and there was an ad for a duck and flower farm on the Isles of Scilly, which was a place I'd never heard of. And for some reason, ducks and flowers seemed like a really romantic pairing in my mind.
How wrong you were.
And I didn't know what that looked like. And so I clicked on it, and Kylie had obviously written a blurb about her and Dave, and they mentioned Lil. And I just contacted you, didn't I?
Yeah.
I sent you an email talking myself up.
Yeah.
And asked if I could come for 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Or
you said.
a couple of weeks, like not long.
Yeah.
I just needed like a reset from my like London quagmire. And you sort of gave me some loose instructions on how to get down here. And I got the train down to Penzance, and then I stayed at the YHA in Penzance. And then I remember speaking to a couple of I went out to like the pub to like have a drink in Penzance somewhere, and I met these two sort of younger guys, slightly younger than me. And I was saying how I was going over to Scilly for, a few weeks, and they were like, "Oh, how are you getting there?" And I was like, "Oh, on the ferry." And I remember them saying like, "Oh, that's going to be awful tomorrow. You wouldn't catch me on that boat tomorrow." And I was sort of naively being like, "Oh, what are they talking about? Like, I can't think of anything cooler getting on a ferry." And like, I hadn't even thought to look at the weather or anything. Anyway, it was just horrendous sea. And I spent, the whole 3 hours just like throwing my guts up in the bottom of that ship. And Dave picked me up in the ute, or what do you call it? Truck. Truck. And he reckons I looked green, like I was really quiet, which is unlike me.
You didn't talk.
Yeah, I was so sick. Yeah. It was awful. And then I didn't get on the boat for 5 years because I was so traumatized by that crossing. I just forked out the cash and paid for the plane every time I left the island because I just couldn't face. I just thought every crossing is going to be like that. So that's how I got here.
Worst one. Yeah. And then you stayed for that winter, didn't you? And you were just volunteering on the farm.
Yeah.
So you came for 2 weeks, but then
So I came for a little bit, and then I don't really know how I decided, but I ended up asking if I could stay for Christmas.
So you couldn't face the boat. You couldn't get off.
Well, I guess that was the only option, wasn't it? I guess it was just I didn't want to commit to longer before I'd like sussed out what Scilly was like and whether we clicked, and we did, didn't we? It's pretty strict. I mean, you're not hard to get along with, you and Dave, but. Yeah, and there was another family living on the farm at the time, and Artie was a baby, and it was just like a nice sort of communal vibe, and everyone was kind of like hunkering down for the winter, and I didn't have a Christmas plan, and so I didn't want to go back to Australia. I sort of didn't want to give up on the dream of like trying to live in the UK because I'd only been sort of here for a year or so at that point. And so I just asked Kylie and Dave if I could stay for Christmas.
Yeah.
And then I stayed for Christmas that year. That was really fun.
And then we decided to start a market garden.
And then,
we had that thought. And then when you came, you kind of came on board with that.
Yeah.
And
I wrote a grant for Kylie and Dave to get the trees planted. That was the first kind of bigger project that I did.
Yeah.
Which was more kind of like computer-based, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Kylie and Dave said they were keen to sort of set up a market garden, and I had like a little bit of growing experience, not much. And did I want to like help run it? And I said, yeah, sure. And I think I had a friend's wedding back in Australia that March, Han's wedding. And so I ended up going back to Australia briefly, but then I sort of committed to coming back to Scilly for the 2019 season. And that was kind of the beginning of the end, really. I just sort of, once I got my teeth stuck into the garden here, it became like my little project.
We kind of fumbled through that first year.
Yeah.
Like the three of us all learning a bit together.
I did a few sort of like online courses, and then, it was just like a fumble through on that first season. And then I got to the end of that first season and I realized that I really, really enjoyed like growing annual veg and like really loved the garden, and Salakee was a really inspiring place. Like Kylie and Dave had all these like big dreams about like what they wanted to do with the farm, and it's so beautiful here. Like the farm like slopes down to like the Port Hellick and the coast, which is in Australia you can get farms like that on the seaboard, but like they're really they're like primo real estate these days. It's pretty rare to find that, and to find them like operating farms that are like affordable, particularly for young people getting into farming. And so I was just kind of a bit like starstruck by like the opportunity of like being in such a beautiful coastal farm location. So then I decided that I wanted to like, I don't know, upskill, I guess. And so I applied for this internship back in Australia with these two sort of like young farmers that were kind of big on Instagram. They'd sort of, I don't know, I don't really know how I discovered my Hinkes. It was just sort of through the farming community generally. And so I applied to do this internship with them, and I went back to Australia to do that for a season with the view to like come back and like bring everything that I'd learnt back and make the garden here like bigger and better. And that was kind of what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that was COVID, wasn't it? And
yeah,
COVID or Scilly, like in COVID times, you kind of got here, didn't you? And then everything shut down. And Scilly, it was strange, wasn't it?
It was such a surreal year because things didn't change really initially, did they? Like we kind of felt like we were in this like little bubble down here. Like we were essential workers, so we could keep working. And our lifestyle didn't change much because we sort of worked outside. And so aside from kind of like going into town and like generally there just being this kind of sense of unease just because it was a pandemic, we kind of just, our day-to-day looked the same, really. So we were really lucky.
If anything, I don't know if you remember feeling this, Jessie, we kind of like, I don't know if it was like self-importance, but we were like, we have to grow food for our island community. Like
there was a panic, wasn't there, at the beginning where the freight ship didn't come for a bit, I think.
Yeah.
And we worried that it wasn't going to.
And we
really
did felt the pressure.
I think we did.
I think
genuinely.
we put that on ourselves, but we were like, we have got to up our game here. We are going to have to really provide.
Yeah. Well, I think also there was people that wouldn't normally have been interested necessarily before the pandemic, or as interested as they were like contacting you, like we were getting lots more sort of interaction with the local community, like wanting food. Meat, eggs, veg, like we had like quite a big offering at that stage of different products. And so we kind of were like, I guess propelled to like meet demand. So we set up an online store. We kind of all spurred into action. It was like quite an exciting time. Like we rapidly set up this online store, and we did a box scheme. Kylie and Dave were doing meat boxes. Did the market go ahead? I can't remember what happened to the farmers market.
I think later on, but I think initially it was just...
We were doing like door-to-door delivery.
Yeah. And we just kind of killed ourselves, really, didn't we? We just worked so hard. Because I think when you're in a small community, like, you really felt the pressure to provide food.
Yeah. And people really wanted it too. And they were super grateful. I think that was the other thing, is like everyone was... We were like... I don't know, delivering veg like door to door. I don't know, everyone was like really stoked, and that was like really nice.
Do you think you'd have felt that, being in a pandemic, if you're on the mainland compared to here? Do you think that would have felt different?
I think the demand was similar. Like a lot of my like growing pals, like the similar thing happened like around the world.
But do you think that almost like that pressure for like your direct community felt stronger on Scilly?
Yeah, definitely. Because you're not, I guess, just by nature of being like locked by sea.
Yeah.
And you already feel the pressure a little bit, even not in a pandemic. Like you're just kind of at the mercy of the boat, really. I mean, everyone learns to live with it, don't they? You just kind of get used to it. But whenever I go into the co-op and I see like empty shelves after a couple of days, bad weather, and I'm always like, we're used to it. But I always think, like, imagine if you were like a visitor and you came, or a tourist, and you just walk into the supermarket like expecting to be able to buy stuff, and you're just completely at the mercy of the elements, and like you literally can't. There's nothing. It's like that's a pretty unique experience. Like,
I do feel for the visitors when that happens.
Yeah,
because we're used to it, and we usually have the heads up,
or you have stuff.
We have a freezer of stuff.
You have a freezer, or I guess when you live here, you just get used to looking at the weather a bit in advance. It's coming in, or you hear on the grapevine because everyone's friends with a fisherman, or some. You just know, don't you, whether it's going to be, you're going to need to go down and get bread now because there's not going to be any, or whatever. Or just like if you're on the mainland, you can always drive somewhere. There's always somewhere you can drive to, even if it's a long way. Like if you know. Whereas here, that's it.
It's only so far.
Yeah.
How do you find the winters on Scilly?
I really like them generally. Like I quite like the wild weather. Like I love the sort of winter. Like I like that the sea gets wild, and I kind of like the boat has to stop in some way, and that everyone kind of has to like hunker down. But I grew up in like the land of sunshine, so I do struggle with just like the light,
or lack of it,
or the lack of light. Yeah. But you see more locals in the winter, I think. Like in the season, everyone's so busy, and you tend to like, I don't know, do fun things with like your neighbours, or I find
it tends to be more social, doesn't it?
I think
people have more time.
Yeah, they have more time, and I guess there are no tourists here, and so I feel like the whole kind of island is St Mary's, and I guess and the off islands, although I can't speak to living on them, but they just everything feels so geared towards tourism in the season. You're kind of, I don't know, you live by the kind of like pulses of like which type of tourist is here, whether it's like bird watchers now this time of year, or families in half term. And I feel like you don't notice how much you're geared towards that until it stops in winter. And you know that if you walk down the street, like 90% of the people you're going to see, you're going to know. Whereas in the season, there's more people that you don't know. And so I think that makes you feel a bit more insulated or something, when you just know that you're going to walk down into town and like every single person that you see, like 90% of them or more live here, and you'll know them by name.
Do you think that spending, as you've done, you've spent like a lot of winters here, do you think that's like when you really get entwined in like knowing everyone? And
I think so. Also, like if you're spending winters here, you're like less in the camp of like seasonal worker. So you become more accepted, I feel. If people can see you like trying to do a few winters, or they get used to seeing you over a winter, you're a bit more like permanent, and I guess locals might feel like they have more time to give you.
Yeah.
Because you've like stuck out a winter and you're...
Is that how it felt to you? Like, people are talking to me now. They've recognised me for a few winters.
I think so. I think also just time, like just the longer you're here. It is just like, I feel like Salonians are very, they're not, I don't know, my dad's family are from Yorkshire, and they're not kind of like brusque and closed like people from Yorkshire, but there is a bit of a hard exterior. You kind of have to like get beneath the surface to kind of like get in with them, not prove yourself, that's the wrong word, but you have to kind of like state your case for being on Scilly, and and how long you intend to stay, and like they need to place you in their social fabric in like a meaningful way before you can, they'll kind of like smile at you on the street or whatever.
Yeah,
I think I've got there over the years.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it is funny. I guess like as someone like you've been here your whole life, you must just see seasonal workers go through all the time. It's like, like, how much energy have I got? How much have I got to put towards someone that's not going to be here next year?
I think that's true of all transient populations. It's like, because it's exhausting, like making friends and then losing them. And so I think, if you're a Salonian, like, through and through, then you just stick to what's, is going to stay the test of time.
Yeah.
Unless you're like me and you just keep, I go a bit and then I come back.
Yeah. So what is it? So Jessie has left, I know once or twice.
I've tried to leave once in one big way.
Like what brought you back? What is it that's Scilly that kind of calls you back?
I don't know. There's something really comforting about Salakee. I think just like the particular stage that I was at in my life when I came to Salakee, and the little community that it kind of became, like this little kind of like microcosm. And I guess the sort of type of friendships that I have on Scilly are like quite unique. They're quite different to a lot of friendships that I have elsewhere. Like I'm friends with people over here that I wouldn't necessarily have become friends with in like different, I don't know, times, places. And so I guess it kind of just drew me back because it was like a comfort thing, being at Salakee and like being in a small community.
Familiar almost.
Yeah, familiar. And I've always felt drawn to the UK and to England in particular because my dad's English, but I've never really like found somewhere in the UK that felt like kind of my place. Like my family's from Yorkshire and I have a lot of affinity with like lots of aspects of that culture, but I've never really felt really deeply at home anywhere up north. But I guess Scilly was the first place, even though I don't have like deep connection here, like ancestrally or anything. I think something about being by the sea and just being small. I also find the history of Scilly like so fascinating. Like I studied history at uni for my first degree, and Dave's really
he loves
chatting. And so I remember my first sort of 12 to 18 months on Scilly, like Dave could tell that I was quite interested, and so he would pull out all the sort of books and stuff that he had and telling about his gran and his family and the Thomases. That were here at Salakee before the Montfords, and I just love all that stuff, all the stories. And I just find the evolution of Scilly from like Enor to like what it is today, and like all those just like crazy things, like how you can see the dry stone walls like under the ocean when you go over to St Martin's on the low tide. Like I just find all that so fascinating. Like just the evolution of like human beings in this place is pretty interesting. So I guess being amongst that's quite, I don't know, addictive or something. There's always something to learn, or which is I guess why you are doing this podcast and interviewing all the older people. Yeah.
Well, we're learning so much, aren't we?
Yeah.
I bet you are.
Yeah. But like, just when you walk around Scilly, the archaeology of the place is just incredible, isn't it? Like, and it's all in such a small area. You'd have to travel miles anywhere else to see what you can just on an afternoon's walk over here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got like the highest concentration of some type of maybe like Bronze Age or something.
Maybe burial chambers.
Yeah, in the UK or something like that.
Yeah, I'll have to find that out. But interestingly, when you moved to Scilly, a relative of yours said, what's that story?
Oh yeah, my Uncle David, when I told him he's based in London, his mum, so she's my great aunt. She's my mum's aunt. Anyway, she used to come and play bridge, which was just a random connection that I didn't know. They were based in Somerset in Porlock.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I need to get the details, but she used to come over to St Mary's to play bridge. I'm guessing in like the 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I need to find out where they played bridge and why they came over on the boat to do it. But that's what David said.
It's so funny wherever you go, because I'm obviously wherever I go I'm with Dave, and wherever we go in the world, we don't travel very far, but there's always a connection. Like the amount of, do you find that?
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Even if you are on the other side of the world, people always come up with a story, that
I think because it's a talking point too. It's like if you're from the Isles of Scilly, people are interested because they either haven't heard of it or they have heard of it and they're shocked that they've met someone from this tiny place that they've heard of that no one else has. And so then you end up sharing the story about what the connection is, which if you're from like London, no one's going to be like, oh, I know someone from London,
They'll be like, oh, my great uncle's wife went on holiday there.
Yeah.
I do it the other way around though. And if people say I'm from London, I say, I know someone.
Oh, no.
It took me a long time to realise that, everywhere's not quite
a real small town. The Londoners probably looking at you being like, I don't care.
Yeah, I had a few strange looks before I stopped doing that.
It's fine.
So Jessie, the years you've been on Scilly, like what have you enjoyed doing as your kind of, because you are a little bit of a workaholic sometimes, aren't you?
Yeah.
But the times that get you off the farm, what is it that you enjoy?
It's mainly rowing, let's face it.
Yeah. The other obsession.
My other obsession. I became obsessed with Salakee and farming and rowing almost exclusively. Yeah, I guess that, that's definitely worth talking about as if you're asking like why I come back here.
Yeah.
I think, I just found my sport, I guess. I mean, I've always played sport and always been like, played team sport since forever. But rowing was just like, I was totally hooked. Everything, same thing though. I think like the history of it was as much like the the history of the gigs and like where they started and why it became a sport that kind of drew me in, really. But yeah, the first time I like rode properly in a race was Champs, when I was out at that wedding that I went back to Australia for a wedding briefly, and Dave sent me a message on WhatsApp whilst I was in Australia, and he said something like, do you want to row? Would you be interested in doing this rowing competition in May? And I remember messaging back being like, oh yeah, what is it? And he was like, oh, it's just this competition that Scilly hosts every year, should be fun, or something really non-committal like that. And I said, oh yeah, I'd be up for that. Words. And so I got back and we sort of got on the boat a few times. I didn't realise that this is how ditzy I was with anything sort of boat related. I'd never rowed a boat or anything. And we were, after our first training session, we went around the harbour. It was my first ever row. And I don't know where I was, rowing in the midships maybe. And we stopped for a breather and I sort of looked up and I was like, so who's steering this thing? Because I was looking at Sean and I was thinking, how is she steering when she's facing the opposite way? And Dave just said, that would be me. And I was like, oh, I thought you were just there to sort of talk to us or offer words of encouragement or something. And then, yeah, we rowed about, I don't know, 4 or 5 times before May.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I just never forget that start line on the Agnes race, my first. I think it was the last year before they capped it. And so it was like quite a few more gigs than it has been in subsequent years. And I just remember thinking, like, I was on the set of like some Viking film and we were going into battle.
Yeah.
Like, I just couldn't believe my eye, like being on that start line and just seeing all the gigs in a row. And then when you hear go over the radio and the noise of all the water and the paddles and everyone shouting. And yeah, I just remember getting goosebumps. I remember I couldn't concentrate on rowing and Dave was screaming at us to keep our heads in the boat, and the gig probably looked like a dying spider. And yeah, but yeah, from that moment I was like, this is an insane sport. I want to do this every week.
And you have.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Rower of the year, I believe.
Oh God, yeah. No, it was very nice to get that.
Yeah.
I was very embarrassed to get off. But yeah, that was really nice. Yeah, I had a really good season this year. It was fun.
And you kind of got really into the training and going to the gym and
sort of the first year I did like the winter training sort of from I guess Christmas through to May, which was really it's all consuming, but
definitely gives you a focus for the winter, doesn't it?
For sure, yeah. It was also really nice. Just I got to get to know like a different group of girls and made some new really like fast friendships and
And it kind of gets you out sometimes, doesn't it? You know, that gets you out, you go to the gym together or you go to circuits.
Yeah. And the more you're out in the water, like I think in winter the weather can be so terrible, and there were lots of days where we were out there in like the pouring rain, or like Jim would take us out in some truly questionable swell. And we'd be like, you know, why are we out here? This is terrible. But then like you would get these just absolutely beautiful like winter's days where it would just be like glassy or like really early dawn, and you're just like sitting out in the harbour like in between all the off islands.
Did you go out when there was the whale?
Whales, yeah. We actually went out for this one practice and we had Tanner in the boat. She was filling in for us and she's terrified of sea creatures and anything related. And that was the one day I remember her saying before we went out, she's like, I bet we see a whale today. Obviously we were all secretly hoping because we'd heard that there was this, I don't know what it was, what sort of whale it was.
We saw a humpback when we were out.
There was one that had sort of been in between St. Martin's and St. Mary's sort of all for the last 24 hours. And so we kind of knew it was there. And I just remember rowing and sort of looking at Jim. I don't know why I looked at him for some reason, our Cox. I just like sort of glanced at him and I remember just like seeing his face go like this. And I remember just being like, there's a whale. But he didn't say anything because he didn't want to upset Tanner. But I felt him like put some rudder on. And I thought he's going to steer us towards this whale. I was like, this is so excited. And then he said, right, no one panic, but we've just come off on this whale. And I remember we we were sort of perpendicular to its like swimming course, and we saw it kind of like come up, and it was kind of swimming like straight towards us. And I remember like it was so big up close that I remember my stomach kind of did momentarily like sort of drop, because I thought, oh, if it goes under the boat and like doesn't judge like it would take just a flick of the tail to like capsize us. It was huge. Anyway, it kind of disappeared underneath us, and then we were all sort of just sitting in the boat, like looking at the water, like trying to see where it would come up. And then it came up and sort of did the, blew the air out its thingo. But yeah, just such an amazing experience. And yeah, times like that where you're just like, oh, I can't believe I live here. Like,
yeah.
And
you're in this kind of self-propelled boat.
Yeah, in this really old wooden boat.
That's so
cool. We saw a few whales after that too. But that was the first one where I was like, oh my God, so awesome.
But obviously, rowing is a massive tradition on the islands, isn't there? Is there any other traditions you've noticed?
I mean, like funny ones, like I love the Christmas cart where, my first year on Scilly, my first Christmas, I remember just the sleigh coming by and just having like sweets pegged at us, and it was just such a hilariously small town, just like really funny like experience.
We might have to explain that to people that aren't here at Christmas.
Oh yeah. Well, what is it? It's a truck. And you get kind of a schedule, don't you, of like approximate timings that it's going to be at certain sort of intersections.
33 at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'd all had like our tiramisu or whatever, and I think I'd made a tiramisu or something, and we'd like dawdled up to the top of the lane with like the kids that were on the farm at the time, and you can kind of hear it coming, and you can see the lights.
Very loud.
And so you can hear it for a while before it comes.
Loud music and flashing lights.
And flashing lights, and a Santa Claus who's someone that who you're sort of trying to see who's Santa, and then all these sweets come down, and there's like a snow machine, and all the kids scream, and then it's gone into the darkness, and then you're kind of like, right, and then you all go back. It was just like such a hilariously short but funny.
I do like, what I really like about Christmas on Scilly is nothing much happens.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that was kind of the culminating thing for the kids, was like, there's literally, it lasted about 10 seconds. And there was so much hype around it, The whole evening is geared towards this sleigh, and you get like 10 sweets like chucked at you at high speed.
Getting everyone to the end of the lane and back takes about an hour.
Yeah. Scilly traditions. I guess like I kind of connected a lot with like the farming traditions over here. So like we've used quite a bit of seaweed, and I always found like collecting seaweed with Dave, and like we'd often go down and you'd have like Artie or whichever baby was small at the time, on the beach, and we'd like shovel seaweed, put it in the back of the tractor. And I guess because I've seen photos of older generations of Scillians collecting seaweed with like horse and like a rake, that it felt like sort of, I don't know, just like a time-honoured tradition that they've been using seaweed to grow veg for like generations. And here we are doing it slightly different with a tractor. And when we bring the tractor back up to the farm, and I'd often just get in the back of the trailer and just kind of like sit on the pile of seaweed with the fork. And I remember quite a few times like tourists would like take photos, and I'd be like, oh yeah, this is obviously like a novel. It's not just me that feels like this is special. It's like people would be like, oh my God, look how quaint, like a couple of farmers with a trailer load of seaweed, which always reminded me that
a couple of kids.
Yeah. So
I always think that's special as well whenever we do that as a job.
Yeah.
By the third trailer load, you're like, oh, that's sweaty.
And everything's aching.
But it still feels good.
Yeah.
It feels, I don't know what it is. Some kind of connection to land and the sea.
Yeah. I don't know, am I missing any traditions that I've talked about before?
No, I mean, we always drag you down the beach for like winkling.
Which I can't stand.
You hate that, don't you?
Join the club.
I just think like it's so much effort for this tiny amount of sandy protein that I'd just much rather go and buy a big prawn.
You've never been into that one.
This one time your friend Kathy made a really good like chowder, and I happily ate that, but I didn't contribute anything to the You have this funny
that's
photo
good.
actually of me like asleep on a rock because I'm so bored
Yeah.
of the winkling.
Yeah, you're asleep on the rock and we're all kind of like winkling and getting clams around you.
And I'm just taking the opportunity to have a rest because it's so mind-numbingly boring. So maybe edit that bit out.
Yeah, do it like.
I was just wondering, what things do you not like about Scilly?
I guess the things that I've struggled with, which have made me attempt to go back to Australia a couple of times. I mean, this is kind of particular to me, I suppose. I grew up in a big city, and so that was like pretty diverse, like culturally, and lots of like live music, and I don't know, just like a feast for the senses, you know? And so I think I've definitely struggled with that, particularly in the winter months. As much like the flip side to it being like really small and like communal and everyone kind of hunkers down is that
There's nothing happening.
there's literally nothing happening. You have to create, it makes you resourceful. You have to create your own fun. But if you're kind of like in a rut yourself, or I don't know, if you're not like feeling super proactive, or you haven't really thought about what you might do over the winter, which has caught me out, or what often happens is like you just work like an insane person until the end of the season, and it kind of just like suddenly comes to a halt when everything stops, and you have this kind of momentary sort of almost like you're a bit like bereft, or you like don't know what to do with yourself. Whereas if you're in somewhere that had lots of stuff on, you can kind of like forget about the fact that you don't know what to do and, you know, plug into any number of activities or whatever. So I guess I've struggled with that. And what else? I mean, we make like exotic food here, but I guess I also grew up with like lots of like just access to, I sort of eat my feelings, don't I? I'm a bit food obsessed and love like creating things. And I think over the years, I've learned to get around it by like ordering stuff in, but like I think wanting to kind of like, I don't know.
You just want your own Asian supermarket.
I basically want my own Asian supermarket here, yeah. I've been frequenting Poms a lot this season, and you're sick of seeing me. No, but I guess just like, having access to just like, you know, modern conveniences, I'd say, and just like a bit more diversity are the things that I've struggled with the most. And what I always thought that like, if I did have kids here, that I'd want like kids to have like exposure to like different languages and cultures, because I feel like that represents what the world is, or what like I would love the world to be more like. And there's a flip side to that, I guess. If you're in London, your kids get that, but London would be a crazy place to bring up kids, I think. It's like so hectic. And so you can't have like the security and like blissful kind of kids over here can just like have free, you know, they just have so much freedom. But then yeah, they miss out on some other things, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you can't have it all.
Yeah.
It's like which one?
Yeah. And then I guess just like being an international human, like my family are just thousands and thousands of kilometers away. And it's the reason I'll end up back in Australia, because it's just like, if you're not willing to compromise on that, then you have to compromise on something. So I'm basically not willing to, well, long term, I don't think.
And you're planning now to leave, aren't you?
Yeah. So I'm trying to cut ties again. No one believes me. I'm telling them that I'm leaving, and they're like, "All right, see you next season." I'm like the boy that cried wolf, you know. None of the challenges of living on Scilly are like insurmountable. Like it's all part of the charm. I think you know pretty soon if you move here from somewhere else whether or not you can live here or not, or whether like the perks are enough for you to like make a life, even if it's for a short time here. Like I feel like if you arrived here, you'd just like instantly know that it wasn't for you, and you'd What do you think you need to be able to, you know, survive here, I guess, or thrive maybe? Like a willingness to turn your hand to anything. I feel like you need to have like everyone over here has like multiple hats. No one does. Well, very few people only do one thing. I think you just have to get used to it. It's like there's less clear defined like career paths. Like, you know, it's not like you kind of stick at one thing. People kind of turn their hands to multiple things. Also because it's so seasonal, like you sort of have to, like the pace of life just dramatically changes from summer to winter. And so I guess that requires a bit of resilience too. You have to be prepared to do like a job that you might not necessarily find like massively like fulfilling and like a really deep, maybe it wasn't in your life plan to like, I don't know, pack flowers for a winter or whatever, but you have to like find the small joys in just being on Scilly. And the job is just like a means to an end for a short period because that's just what you have to do over here.
Yeah, lots of people are like that. They come here, they want to stay, but
their job, their dream job doesn't exist. Yeah. I think you just kind of, I'm just lucky in that like I wanted to farm and I can do that here.
Do you think, we were talking about this the other day, Erica, weren't we, about how it's quite unusual here, as in like your career doesn't necessarily define you like it does everywhere else. It's not like that class career thing that happens over here.
Yeah, you wouldn't like necessarily, I don't really like this question in conversation anyway, but like often when you meet new people, in the first 10 questions asked is like, oh, what do you do? And like I feel like you possibly wouldn't ask that over here. There are so many other things you'd ask a person first. Like, I don't know.
Because it seems less important here for some reason.
In fact, I've got friends that sometimes I've been friends with them for a couple of years and I realize I don't actually, like I know generally where they work, but I don't actually know what their job description is. Like we've never had a conversation where I've been like, what does your day look like of your job? Because it just hasn't been relevant for whatever reason. Like we have so many other interests, like, I don't know, rowing or eating out or, I don't know, exploring on the weekend, then that what you do, I don't know.
Just not the forefront,
I don't know. It's just not front and center, I think.
Have you got any other questions?
No, I think we've like kind of covered most things. Do you think there's anything that like any kind of events that's happened whilst you've been here that you want to talk about or
there's so many things. I don't know, you having a home birth here.
Oh yeah, that was
and like cool. The whole sort of island, mothers birthing over here in a way that's pretty old world and old school with like one midwife, and that was pretty that was pretty life-changing for me and my sister being here. I guess when I had my quad accident, just like little sort of things that I feel like define or like paint in isolation, they sound a bit strange, but like you could describe so many incidences that kind of together give you a sense of like what it's like living here. I was going to say when I had my quad accident.
Yeah.
And I just remember I hadn't even been here that long, really. I think less than a year.
Yeah.
But I just remember, I think by nature of me being associated with Dave and Kylie, but just like people just like came out of the woodwork to help when that happened. And I remember just being like having a real sense of like a community like mobilizing in like a time of need, which just I'd never lived anywhere where that would have been the case.
So what actually happened?
I came off the farm quad at the top of the lane. It had a fault and the throttle jammed, and I went over the wall and hit the other side of the wall and knocked myself out, and the quad ended up like 20 meters down the road upside down, and Benson was fearlessly guarding me whilst I lay in a crumpled heap. And I ended up being airlifted to Trilisk. I was fine.
This is life in a farmhouse kitchen.
Yeah.
Days come in with the milk share, the dogs come in.
I ended up being airlifted to Trilisk, but I just remember people like immediately coming to like look after farm animals, and
everyone's there.
The first responders that were there I knew, and they knew me by name, and I don't know, it was just like such a wholesome. It was not like if you'd had that experience in like a big city and you wouldn't have known anyone, and it would have been a quite like isolating experience. But
it is impressive.
So the last question we like to ask people is, what do you really love about Scilly?
Or what's your favourite bit?
That's really hard. Do I have to say one thing?
No, not necessarily.
No?
I'm saying no, but I can see Erica's like, yes, you have.
Honestly, for me, I think, if I had to boil it down to one thing, I'd say like the history of the people and the fact that it's an island history I find just like so fascinating, and I like want to be a part of it, or like want to learn more about it, or like want to, yeah, that's the thing that kind of draws me back, is that it's just such a unique place historically and socially. And I feel like that just has had knock on, like you can still feel that when you live here, like even in the modern day, even, you know, when we're not so isolated. But yeah, I just think it's just such a unique, fascinating place that you kind of, if it gets under your skin, you just kind of like, I would like want to be a part of it, you know? Everything about it, like I want to be part of the gig rowing and like the farming community and the sea bit, you know, the fact that the islands are connected by water, and I just love all that aspect of it.
That must be amazing for you, Erica, you know.
It's funny, isn't it? Because it's not something you think about if you've grown up always knowing it.
Yeah.
But when you hear other people say, you can recognise that.
Yeah.
But it's just not something that that enters your mind. Like my dad was saying, you grow up and you don't realise that, you know, that's different to how other people live.
Yeah. Yeah. Even just like this, hearing about the school, you know, how the kids at Mundersley come over, and they come over by boat at the beginning of the week and they go back at the end of the week. And just that whole thing of just like, it's something about living in this place steeped in so much history, but that's so dependent on like the rhythms of nature and the ocean. And I think because I grew up by the ocean, I find that the ocean's important to me personally. And so Scilly just has this kind of draw because it's so steeped in all that kind of, wild Atlantic history. And I don't know.
Almost like history is kind of like, it's always there a little bit.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
There are things that are still happening now, or it just kind of surrounds you quite a lot here, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, like that trip we did to Samson the other day, I can't believe it's taken me 7 years to get there, but
yeah,
I just loved it. I get that like sad nostalgia for things that aren't really mine to be sad about, like with like historical places, whatever. But like I was just, I was walking there with Helen Shave, and, her family are from there. And I was like, Helen, does it make you sad? And she's like, and I was like, this house. And I was like imagining the hearth and like who sat there. And I don't know. Yeah, just the whole history of the place is wild.
And we rode over in a gig.
Yeah, we rode over in a gig, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's a cool place. I'm really going to miss it, actually. Yeah. I'll be back to visit, just to visit.
Or next season.
No, I really have to like commit to one hemisphere or the other. It's definitely time. Yeah. My gran is really pleased. She's 91. So I'm using her as an excuse. I've got to go back and do my dues.
Thank you so much for listening to these podcasts that we're putting out. If you want to enjoy more, maybe subscribe to the podcasts and even show it to a friend. Anyone that's interested in Scilly.
Yeah, and don't forget to look at our social media where we've got some pictures of the people that we interview, and we've tried to find or source images of, their surroundings or things that we've spoken about. So it's quite interesting to look at the Instagram or the Facebook page alongside listening to the podcast, and you can find those at Scilly Stories Podcast.